Everybody, welcome back. So we're gonna do a quick video just like we did for the Firebird. We're gonna do a quick video just explaining a little bit about the Camaro project that we're working on. We started off, before we had moved, we moved here in June and it's now January. So we've been here, going on 8 months now, about 8 months. And when the Camaro was first a thing, this started at our old house that we had before. We had a different shop, and we actually had a 96 LT1 car. It was red, and it was just completely stock. We got it as a roller, and then Annie and I tore it down. We stripped out everything out of the car that we didn't want or we didn't need going forward. So the interior got completely stripped out. There was no engine or trans in there. We got rid of the exhaust, the gas tank, and a bunch of things that we knew that we weren't going to use. And the idea was for it to be a beginner car for her to be able to learn how to drag race. Getting a nice, easy beginner car that was a dedicated race car that wasn't something that she was going to drive on the street. And it was just basically a learner. So it wasn't going to be anything real super high dollar or nothing like that. And that's kind of the same principle of what we're doing now. But before we moved that 96 Camaro here, and we had been working on putting a roll cage in and kind of getting ready to do some chassis work and some steering and suspension stuff. And once we got done with the whole move and we got moved into this shop here, I came across a deal on another car, and we'll get into that in a minute. And that's the car that we're currently working on. So we ended up getting rid of the 96. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw up a couple of photos for you to see kind of what we had and what we were doing. So I'll loop those in now. All right, now that you've had a chance to look at what we were talking about with the 96, we'll talk about what we're working on currently. The 96 was great. There was nothing wrong with it. One day, I was looking around at things and I found a car on Marketplace that was local to us, and it was a 99. So we were in a 98 to 02 body style, still in a 4th generation F body, but just a little bit newer. And anybody who knows anything about these F bodies, you already know there's a lot more aftermarket support. There's a lot more options. There's a lot of things when you go to an LT car versus an LS car that you are capable of doing. So when we picked up the 99, the reason that we actually picked that car up and decided to build that instead of the 96 was not only the availability of aftermarket parts and stuff like that, but this car actually had a little bit of work done to it already. And it was already things that we had discussed that we were gonna do. So what it came down to was it saved us a bunch of time. It wasn't so much a money thing, because the money that we invested in getting the 99 Camaro versus what we had in the 96, we didn't really lose. We sold the 96 for a little bit more than what we bought it for. And when we picked up the 99, I think the money for what was already done to the car was pretty much a wash. So there wasn't anything, we weren't blowing our budget. I think if there was any difference whatsoever, it was probably gonna be 100, 200 bucks or something like that. I mean, it was very comparable. So the 99 is the topic of the video. That's really where we wanted to pick this up and kind of explain what it is that we've done so far, what we plan on doing, what the purpose of the car is. There's a lot of things that I just want to cover briefly in just a quick summary. So going forward, as you see us doing work on the car, you kind of get an idea of what it is what direction we're headed and what you can expect to see. So this is still going to be a learner, for Annie. And I've been out of the game for a little bit, and it's a chance for me to get my feet wet a little bit more. So between the two of us, we're primarily going to be driving the car, and this is a drag race vehicle. This is not going to be something we drive around on the street. It will be capable of doing like a short cruise or something like that for some of these daily driver classes, but it's not really a daily driven car. It will be legal to be driven on the street, but it's not really practical. So we'll go ahead and we'll go over by the car and we'll kind of highlight a few things. And like I said, we're going to talk about what's already been done prior to us getting it, what we've done so far, because we didn't start the YouTube channel until, a month or two ago. So we've already been working on this stuff. and we're just now getting around to actually documenting some of these things. So we'll stop it here, we'll move over to the car, and we'll go a little bit more in detail on the project. All right, so here's the 99 Camaro that we're working on. The nice thing with the 99, if anybody's into these 4th gen F bodies, this is a 1-year only color. This is the original color of the car. I couldn't tell you the name of it, but we really like the fact that it has this color on it. It's an anniversary year car for the Z28, 69 to 99, so it's a 30th anniversary for the Z28. This car, when we picked it up, did not have an engine or transmission in it. It had a stock 10-bolt rear in it, which it's still in there. The car did have these wheels and tires on it, so it does have, it's a 17 by 4.5 in the front, and they have these ET fronts on there. We are going to keep the skinnies up in the front. We may change the rims, but we are going to stick with the skinnies up front and the fat tires out back. It does have slicks on the back already, and it's a 28-10-5. We're going to run the same exact size tire. The only difference is that this is actually going to go on to a DOT radial. So we're going to run a radial skinny up front. We're going to run a drag radial in the back. And the main reason for that is the classes. When you talk about the classes of racing in the drag racing, as far as the classes that we want to get involved in and what we want to run, we're going to be able to put a slick on the car for certain events, but we are going to primarily run a DOT, something along the lines of a pro bracket radial or something along those lines. Either a Hoosier or Mickey Thompson, probably a Mickey Thompson tire. It just depends on availability. But slicks and skinnies are what's on here now. We'll go to the drag radial and keep a skinny up front. We do have another set of wheels and tires in the back that we're going to use for like our slicks, and we're going to set these up. We may change wheels, but what's going to go on the car first is going to be the radials. So this car was already set up with a few chassis parts on it, and we'll highlight those going forward because there's a few things that are getting changed. There's a few things that we're going to leave on there. The brakes that are on the car are stock. There's nothing upgraded in the brakes. It did have a tubular K-member in it. That is still in the car, and we'll show that. In fact, obviously, we put a motor in this car already, and this was kind of an off the fly type thing. We didn't plan on putting this engine in here. I had purchased the trans, and the engine is a package deal. It was kind of a bonus deal, and so I decided rather than letting the engine sit and collect dust until Annie has her license later this year, we would at least kind of run the engine in this car, and then later the intention is that we're probably going to build a nice little small block, a 383, a couple kitchen nitrous. Should still be a pretty fast car, but it's not going to be what's in the car now. But we'll talk about what we've done so far, what's in there now. Why don't you guys come around? All right, so this is a bow tie block from GM. It's 540 cubic inches. It does have forged internals. Crank rods and pistons are all forged. 13 to 1 compression. So it's definitely not a street-friendly motor. It can run on the street, like I said, but it's just not practical. So this engine, as it sits right now, makes almost 800 horsepower. So this is what we're going to start with. And we've gotten the engine and the transmission in the car. The transmission is a Turbo 400. It's got all the goodies inside of it. The sprag, the input shaft is all different. The steels, the clutches, everything's been upgraded. It does have a trans brake in it, so we will be leaving off a brake. The rear end is on its way. We've ordered that, so you're going to see that in upcoming videos. But this is meant to just be a very simple combination. While the big block is in the car, it's just going to be naturally aspirated. We're not going to have a power adder. We're not going to spray it. We're not going to do anything crazy like that. We're going to leave it the way that it is. The most that we may do to this is a cam change. And that is because it's a hydraulic flat tappet cam that's in there now. We may go to a hydraulic roller, or we may go to a mechanical roller, a solid roller cam. But it does have the alternator, electric water pump. So, I mean, it does have a few accessories on it. It's manual steering. The K-member that's in the car is a BMR tubular K-member, and we have their BMR's manual rack that's designed to fit this K-member. It's brand new. We just put it in. You're going to see a video upcoming of the steering rack going in and why we changed it. So I'm not going to go into great detail about any of this stuff. I just want to kind of give a brief overview. The big block should be fun. It's going to definitely be a learning curve. I'm sure we're going to have some bugs to work out, but it's going to give an opportunity for Annie to do some ride-alongs and kind of get to see how the process of staging a car is and doing the burnout and launching the car and how to, you know, when you come down the return road and getting your time slips. So again, this is just a learner car, but I think this is going to be pretty fun. 800 horsepower in a car like this is quite a bit, because this car is a lot lighter than stock. I haven't put it on scales yet, but I would not be surprised if this car is under 3,000 pounds, even with the big block in it. It's basically just a shell. The nose of the car and everything is off currently, just from us putting the engine in. We didn't want to risk damaging the front of the car. So the nose is off of it. It's sitting back there on the back of the car. And we've got a little bit of clutter because we are working on our home garage. So we don't have a huge shop to where we can, have all the room in the world. We plan on putting a lift in here, but we don't have one yet. So we're working off of jack and jack stands, just like anybody else would be at home. The combination, like I said, very simple. Big block, turbo 400, 9-inch out back. Drag radials or slicks for tires. We'll come around, Annie. I'm going to grab this light and kind of give everybody a little bit of a look inside here, what we've done. So it's a 1050 Dominator carb, Edelbrock aluminum intake. We did go ahead and build a motor plate for the car instead of using the motor mounts. So we motor plated it, and we just recently fabricated some travel limiters. When you run a motor plate, if you don't know, the motor plate limits the movement side to side, but you have to have something that will limit the movement front to back, and that's what the travel limiters are for. And they're kind of hard to see. You might be able to see them in there. It's a black bar that runs from the factory engine mount location on the block and then going back toward the frame back there. Like I said, it's kind of hard to see in this. But we fabricated those. We got the travel limiter kit from Motion Raceworks. The motor plate came from Summit, and it was just a square, so we went ahead and we chopped that down. We just got done doing that a little bit ago. Got the front accessories on. Kind of walk around this side, eh? You can get a glimpse. The master cylinder has been changed. That has the Motion Raceworks or TBM brakes adapter plate to convert from the power to the manual brakes for drag racing. It's a strange master cylinder, and we're getting ready to do front and rear brakes on this car. So you'll see the rest of the brake install. The steering column, kind of maybe get a shot of that. The steering column is right there. That's what's coming through the firewall. We haven't connected the dots yet. We just got the rack in, but you guys will see another video highlighting all the steering stuff all at once. But we have converted this over. The factory column is gone. And kind of take a shot inside here. So we ended up putting in Motion Raceworks lightweight steering column. We got their MPI steering wheel with the 2 buttons. That's going to be the line lock and a trans brake. And then we went ahead and I'm just going to scoot the light. The turn signal switch is in there, so when we do have the street legal, like if we have to do a cruise or something like that, then you'll be able to still have your working turn signals and everything else. All right, so we wanted to come down here and just kind of give you guys a little bit of a glimpse of stuff that we've already done. So this car, when we got it, it did have coilover suspension. And as you see, it still does have coilovers up front. The ones that were in the car were wore out, they were leaking, and they didn't have the proper spring rate for throwing a big block in here. So we got on the phone to Viking, and they hooked us up. We got a set of the Crusader double adjustable coilovers. It's a 450-pound spring. And that's just because of having all that weight in there. That it's a cast iron block with aluminum heads, but it's still, being a 540 cubic inch tall deck big block Chevy, we needed a little bit more spring rate. So we went ahead and did the math, and that's what we came up with. 450 pound spring rate on the Viking double adjustable coilovers, and that's a 14-inch spring. So we do have a little bit of long travel in here, which will help. The control arms that are in the car are tubular, the lowers as well as the uppers. Those were in here already. Let's see if I can't shift that light a little bit. So these are UMI control arms, the upper and lower. Luckily, they work well with the BMR stuff. But these were already in the car. So all we did was we just checked the bushings, made sure that everything was in good working order, and it is. So we decided to just keep those on the car, and we're going to run those. It's a factory spindle on the car. And what they've done for this coilover is they have an adapter that goes up there for the top mount of the coilover, and then underneath where the strut tower is, there's a bracket that accepts their tubular lower control arm. So we did the coilover install already. We got the steering rack in, like I mentioned. You can see that there under the transcooler lines, and that's the BMR manual rack. The clearance in there is pretty good. That's a 7 or an 8 quart oil pan on this 540, and there's quite a bit of clearance in there. There's a better shot of our travel limiters as well, where they bolt up to the block, and then it runs along and then attaches to the frame back there with some tabs. And it's just spherical rod ends on each side, so you can adjust forward or back. But that's where we're at right now. Stock brakes on the car, they work pretty well. It's a dual piston caliper. It's all stock stuff. Yeah, the rotor's rusty because the car really hasn't been on the road, but all that stuff is fairly brand new. We could probably turn those rotors, and all this brake stuff would work out fine. But we have other plans, so that'll be in a future video. There is some different brakes going on the car, front and rear. And then here's a little bit of a shot. We do have it jacked up because we're getting ready to start on the brake work, but we're gonna save that so you guys can see that in another video. But overall, pretty decent car, rust free, which is big considering that this car is old now. I mean, it's in really good shape. Here's the factory steering column that we took out of the car, just kind of sitting back here. And then the coilovers that were on the car are underneath it. So we're gonna keep those around, probably send those off to QA1, get them rebuilt, and then get the correct springs that we need for the small block. When the small block goes in, we'll have a set ready to throw right in. We do have a whole mess of stuff going in the car. These boxes from Summit. The Kirky seats are going in the car. There's some more motion boxes down there. And we have a lot more stuff coming on the way. So pretty exciting. Pretty nice project, like I said, especially for a learner car for Annie. I think it'll show well, should perform fairly well. When we get it all lined out, it should be fairly easy for her to drive. More boxes of stuff inside, electronics and things. One nice thing about this car is it has already been mini tubbed, and it's pretty hard to see in here, but this right here is the edge of the mini tub. And they just kind of hacked up the interior trim panel to make it fit, to keep the stock interior. The panel's not exactly fitted right, but it does have mini tubs in the car. Look over to the other side, you can see the inside of that one. So this will take a pretty decent sized tire. All in all, it should work out well. If you guys got any questions, comments, anything like that, go ahead and put it in the comments section. I'll be more than happy to answer them. Just a quick walk around. Like I said, it's our home garage, so I mean, we're working in tight quarters here, but we'll get it done. Now that we've had a little bit of a walk around the car, you got to see a few things up close. I hope it gives you guys a good idea as to what it is that we're doing with the car. what we plan on doing going forward, kind of the idea behind the project. I think doing a summary video was probably the easiest way to kind of showcase that, but we're really going to get into the details of all the different things as far as building this car goes and all the content going forward. Being able to, have the two of us out here and working, that's kind of the biggest thing for me. I enjoy that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, being able to help out and just learn about the way things work and how things affect the car.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, there's a big difference. Doing the coilovers, I think, was a good learning experience for you.
Yeah.
Being able to put them together, but to see the difference in the spring rate and how much different it was.
Yeah.
We put the big block in with the old coilovers, so it's one of those things where that front end was darn near on the ground. And once you did the coilovers, that really changed, and we were able to actually get that to the right ride height without having the spring halfway compressed already.
Yeah.
As far as getting the engine in, I mean, that was a lot of you too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, doing the steering column and being able to feel the difference in the weight and having a quick disconnect for the steering wheel. That's going to be real nice.
Right. Well, especially there's a cage going in the car.
Mm-hmm.
So once you have that door bar in your way, you'll appreciate having that steering wheel being able to come off.
Yeah.
The column, I was really shocked at how much heavier the stock column really was than that motion column. When they say a lightweight steering column, they're not joking. I mean, I think it would take you every bit, two hands. That thing had to be probably 60, 70 pounds.
Yeah.
And that new one, you could hold it with a couple fingers, and I like the fact that they have all the safety features built in to where even though it's lightweight, it's safe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the biggest things for me.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to really have a good time going forward, doing more and more of the stuff on the car.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah. And pretty soon we get to hear it run.
Yeah, that's going to be nice.
So that's the best part. Well, we'll end it off here. Like I said, this is just a brief overview, but please, if you like the stuff that we're doing, understand we're new to the YouTube thing. So being able to sit here and talk to you guys, and really when you're not here in front of us, it's a little bit different, but we'll get used to it. It'll be a little bit easier for us going forward, but we do appreciate the people who are watching. We do appreciate, if you guys want to comment on anything, we monitor that stuff, and we'll both chime in and reply to anybody, whether it's questions or just general comments or whatever. But we do appreciate you watching. So if you haven't already and you want to, subscribe, like the channel, like the different videos if it's something that you're interested in, and just kind of let us know what you'd like to see. If there's anything specific with these two cars, the Firebird that we have behind us and that Camaro, for now, that's kind of the primary direction that we're headed. We do have two other projects that we have here that we will have coming up, but we're trying to get these two done first. And then Memorial Day weekend, Builders Brawl. Mm-hmm. So that's the push for the Camaro. We're trying to enter into the Builders Brawl. So if you want to check that out, it's a pretty cool thing. I think that's going to be fun. That'll be our first outing with the Camaro, as long as everything goes the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
So, well, that's it for now. Like I said, stay tuned. There'll be a lot more content coming on both these cars.